This episode of Behind the Puck may contain material that would get you a game misconduct, so listener discretion is suggested.
Welcome to Behind the Puck, the hockey podcast that grew out of our discussions with Steph Grieger, the director and producer of the movie The Third Period. And just before we're done tonight, John, we're going to get an update on some exciting news from Steph as far as the development of the film. But one of the aspects in any hockey movie would be fighting, and without any spoilers, we wanted to talk about fighting tonight and then tie it into the movie. And since I've never been in a fight in my life, I mean, look at me. I mean, the nose looks like I have been in a fight. Not been in a fight.
Wait a minute, not even in like elementary school?
Not even a fight in my... I punched a guy in a soccer game when I was 12 once, and I got a yellow card. I punched him in the back as he took me down. That's as close as I've ever gotten to being in a fight. I mean, look at me. I'm like 150 pounds wet. I would have gotten killed. I wouldn't be here with you today. John, you ever been in a fight?
I'm probably a playground scrap. Yeah, probably.
Did you win?
I can think of one.
This is a pathetic conversation.
Yes, this is.
It's a good thing.
Let's stop and let's introduce the quote-unquote experts, if you will.
All right, we're going to work our way up the ladder here. A veteran of 11 professional hockey seasons, the pride of Bowling Green State University, the author of Journeyman, a man of letters, perhaps not fisticuffs, we'll find out. On the line from Anaheim, California is Sean Pronger. How are you, Sean?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Are you a lover or a fighter or both?
Sadly, I think I'm neither.
Oh, that's sad.
I'm definitely not a fighter, and I don't think I'm a lover, so yeah, is there a third choice?
All right, well, we do have some evidence saved up that you were in at least one scrap on the ice, as it seems that YouTube has turned into the Library of Congress of hockey fights. Any fight that you guys were in, whether you remember it or not, we can find it. But we're going to get to our other guests, and we're gonna dredge up proud moments and maybe not so proud moments. Former Blue Jacket and Philadelphia Flyer, and soon to be in the Ohio State Athletics Hall of Fame, R.J. Umberger is with us.
Thanks for having me back again.
Put yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 as a fighter when you were in the league.
Ooh, 1 to 10, like -3.
Negative. So you weren't
probably,
looking for it.
Yeah, it was probably like a 2 or 3 actually. Right. I fought a couple times, but it's nothing I made a career out of.
Well, I don't think we would have much of a podcast here on Behind the Puck about fighting unless we turn to an expert on the subject, a veteran of 12 NHL seasons with the Blue Jackets, the Sharks, the Rangers, the Flyers. He now works and does such outstanding work with Fox Sports Ohio as an analyst for the Columbus Blue Jackets, Jody Shelley. Jody Shelley, a doctorate in fighting. Is that fair?
I would say, yeah, I've had a few stitches in the face.
All right. Well, we'll get to the pain. But I've always been fascinated by the sociology, if you will, of a hockey fight. Because as a person who has watched hockey his entire life, I think that was the part that always fascinated me. Because to me, if you get in a fight with someone, it's because you're really mad or you hate them or they took something from you. But in hockey, it's a little more complicated than that, isn't it?
I guess it can be. Yeah, first of all, it makes no sense, right? Is that what you're saying? It's hard to understand.
It has to make sense because I've been told my entire life watching hockey that it's an important part of the game, that sometimes your team needs a lift, and it's up to you as the man that's dropping the gloves to provide that lift. It's to enforce the unspoken rules of the game. And if the referees are not controlling the game, then you take control of the game. Am I on the right track?
Yeah, you're close. I mean, so yeah, it's all of that, but it all comes down to you're an ultimate team guy. You're a fourth line guy with minimal minutes. You understand your role in the team, and you try to provide a guy with skill or a guy that might be a little timid an easy playground to play on.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So you're walking onto the playground.
Yes.
And maybe there's the guys are getting up a game of kickball or something. And somebody's being mean to your friend. And he
doesn't happen.
So you make sure that they're not mean to your friend anymore in the playground. Right. So the rink is the playground. Is that fair, RJ?
Absolutely, yeah.
Did you have someone that protected you on the playground?
Yeah, definitely.
Who were
I played
some of
with
the guys
Donald Brashear in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody messed around with anybody when he was on the ice, so it was good having him there. And guys like Jared Bowl.
Yeah.
Jared Bowl was,
yeah.
not the biggest guy, but he was one of the toughest pound for pound in the league. So when he was on the ice or on your team, you had somebody had your back at all times, and it was fun to have him.
Sean Pronger, were you on a team long enough to have someone that thought that highly of you to have your back when you were out there?
That was a little harsh.
You are hurting my feelings. Unfortunately, I was never the skill guy or the high draft pick guy, so I was left a lot of times to fend for myself. However, I did have the good fortune of playing on a lot of times on the fourth line, and usually what that comes with is you get to play with guys like Jody Shelley who got your back. So I don't know if Jody's job was necessarily to protect me, but he certainly indirectly made my life a lot easier when we played together. Just think of this Stu Gripson line. When he was asked what his role was, he's like, my role is to provide a safe working environment.
It's so true.
So it's like you guys work together at a factory, and they put up the sign. I worked in a paper mill when I was in college, and they had the signs like, how many days since we've had an accident where someone fell into a pit or something. And if the number was high, you felt good. It was like it's a safe working environment. So it's sort of like you're in a factory, and you're the safety guy, making sure that everybody's safe.
Yeah, everyone feels good, and there's the other dynamic of 18,000 fans at Nationwide Arena. It's a Friday night, and you're down 2-0 in the first 3 minutes, and all the emotion is gone from the building. You want to get out there and get stuff fired up, let the other team know that your team isn't going to lie down. So you pick out the tough guy on the other team, and you go ask him to fight politely. And then
how would you go back? Let's go there.
I think in that scenario,
of somebody you fought a lot.
Yeah.
How would you have this conversation with them?
Well, it'd be very brief because he would know at that point that I was coming.
Uh-huh.
And if the role was reversed, if the score was reversed, I would know that he would come. So some nights I'd be hoping that the score would stay close, or he would, because if it gets out of hand,
I gotcha.
We come knocking on each other's doors, and usually you have to oblige. And when you do oblige, and so say he says, "Okay, I'll fight you."
Okay.
Then we fight, and our crowd is back in it, and then our team scores a goal. Woohoo! We've done our job.
Were you ever turned down?
Oh yeah.
I was just going to ask.
Turned down. Guys have done that.
Do you lose credibility? Like
A little bit.
When you do
a little
that, I
bit.
assume?
Especially if you really want to fight them, you make everyone know. You got to make sure. This is a little bit of a strategy. Think about this now. If you really if you want everyone to know that you're asking to fight, if you just whisper in his ear and he just goes like this, no, I'm not fighting, then you don't really want to fight him. But if you really want to fight him, you make sure everyone in the building is like, come on, you got to fight him, and you really challenge him and back off. That's what I tried to do if I really wanted to fight. If I didn't, I would just kind of whisper, hey, RJ, you want to go? And RJ would say, no, not now. I'd go back to the bench, and the guys would be like, did you ask him to go? And I'd say, oh, yeah, I asked him. He doesn't want to go. So you've got to really show it up if you want to go.
So as a teammate, when that happens, it's you know what's going on a lot of times because like you said, 2-0 in the first 3 minutes, and all of a sudden who's in the next line out. The coach kind of gives a little tap, looks at you, and there goes Jody or Jared or whoever it is, and
not to score a goal.
Yeah, opening center ice face-off after a goal. They're going out there for a reason, and it's usually just to get something going. And on the bench as a teammate, you're sitting there going, here it comes, all right. And then, next thing you know, everybody's fired up and things turn. So
that's one dynamic of it.
Yeah.
And the other one is keeping things clean and safe and making sure that, all your guys understand that, hey, Donald Brashear is out there and he's going to be hitting guys tonight, or most nights, but tonight it's not going to happen. So even if I address him early in warm-up or say, tonight's not your night, then, at least our guys know, ooh, yeah, Jody's out there and he's going to probably get beat up, but that's fine. We're fine with that. As long as we don't get beat up.
So I'm thinking of a guy like, I don't know, not to name names, but Sidney Crosby is an annoying little twerp. And it seems to me that as a superstar player, he takes it upon himself to get under other players' skin, knowing that he's not necessarily going to be the guy to fight. do you ever, as a player, make a run at a star player to
Well,
fight them, or is that like off limits?
First of all, I like Crosby. I like Sidney. I think he's awesome.
Okay, as a fan, I don't like him, but that's.
I think he's awesome.
Okay, he's an awesome player.
And so if he had someone on his team that wouldn't fight me, and I had to get a fight in, then I would tell the guy, all right, if you don't want to go, I'll take a run at your star.
Okay. Up in the
At
end.
Sydney, yeah. I'll say, because that's your job. So what you're saying is, no, you're not going to oblige my request, so I will take this to someone else. Then you'll have to fight. But no, I would never go after, I wouldn't take a run at him just to take a run at him. It'd probably just to get under the skin of the other guy who I would like to fight.
Sean, what's a thing that happens on the ice that has to be answered with a fight? What are some things that another player may do knowingly or unknowingly that has to be answered with fisticuffs?
I mean, it's different now, but I think that, back in the day, in years past, any type of cheap shot, I think, would be answered, and any type of, like Jody was saying, if Jody went after a star player without anything else happening, that would have to be answered. Or if anybody was taking advantage of a star player in different situations, that would have to be addressed. And so, it always depends on time of year, playoff, that kind of stuff. But usually, you don't want your star players having to look over their shoulder. You don't want guys thinking they can take advantage of anybody else on your team. There's one thing for the clean hits to happen in those two, but when people are taking liberties, I think that has to be answered for.
I will say, as a follow-up, that Sean is not the only pronger that's played in the National Hockey League. So his little brother played in Anaheim.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, played in Anaheim, and I would go out after his brother and try to get him, just kind of bother him a little bit. And I would turn around, and George Peros would be looking at me with his mustache and say, "Shells, you can't do that. We got to go." Because Randy Carlisle would send him out immediately. So that's what happens when you pick on the star player. And I knew George would be coming out, and that's sometimes how you get things going.
Did you ever get a chance, though? Like, in other words, you're picking on the wrong guy. Would they go, "Hey, if you do that one more time," or is it like, "That's it, we got to go"? There's no
it's usually just go. I mean, for the star players, the guy you want the star player to understand that isn't going to happen. Like one time when I was in San Jose, Steve Ott fought Joe Thornton, and I'm on the bench losing. Steve Ott was one of the best pests in the National Hockey League of our time, and he fought Joe Thornton, and Joe Thornton shouldn't be fighting Steve Ott. So when Steve Ott got back on the ice, I stood up and I said to our coach, "I'm going right now." And he was like, what? And I said, "I'm going." So I went out, I threw the gloves off, and I grabbed Steve Ott, and I didn't really get much on because he turtled. But he just tried to jump under the ice. And so the message was sent to Steve Ott that you don't mess with Joe Thornton. And it was sent to Joe Thornton that no one's going to mess with you. And then everyone on the bench was like, yes. It actually ended up being 5 or 6 guys got kicked out in a row right after that because Dallas then retaliated and then we retaliated, which is a fun scenario too when you're in the locker room after a line brawl and you're just like, you got blood coming out of your forehead. And then someone else walks through the door and you're like, "Oh, what'd you do?"
Man, that's where it kind of turns into slap shot.
A little bit.
Well, didn't we have a video queued up before we got started where 2 of you got run? It was you, Sean, and you, Jody, right? When you were playing for the Blue Jackets? How did that go down? Do you remember, Sean?
I don't remember how. I know how Jody and O-line started fighting. I think that was everybody. The entire crowd was waiting for that to happen. And it finally went. And I can't remember what happened. Why I ended up getting in the fight. I honestly can't remember how it started, but I was actually in a very advantageous position, and I had a buddy in the stands. I'm like, you know what? Why not? So I was like, just trying to egg the guy on and just drop his gloves, and I already had my gloves on. So I mean, that was kind of a dick move by me, but.
You were fired up. Bronx.
I can't remember exactly why we got into that tangled up like that.
So who went first? Did you go first or did Jody go
I
first?
think I went first.
You went first.
Oh, Jody went first. He was the main. We put the undercard.
The undercard last.
Went first.
So this, and it was a lopsided game. It was 5-1 Chicago in the second period. So it fits the scenario that we were talking about earlier about, trying to turn the momentum in a lopsided game.
Well,
there's nothing worse than the game being lopsided and you don't have any heavyweights. I've been in situations where in the minors where we're winning 5-1. We're playing against Hershey. We've got probably 2 or 3 middleweights on our team, and Hershey has about 9 heavyweights. And it's oh my God, we scored again. More and more of the hand. We're all
quit scoring.
I think I sprained my ankle. I don't know if I go out there, but you can barely get guys going on the ice. And you stop scoring goals. It's the worst feeling in the world when you go out there and you got. There was Jason Bowen, Clayton Norris, Dan Corditz, Phil Crow. They're just licking their chops, waiting for these middleweights to come out there and just got pounded. But yeah, they cannot have somebody like Jody out there to keep the peace. It gets ugly really fast if you don't keep scoring close.
Well, thanks to the internet, Sean, we actually have one of these fights here that we just spoke about from February 15th of 2003, where it is Lyle Oderline versus Jody Shelley, and then Steve McCarthy taking on you. So shall we take a look at this little clip?
Jody, when we're done with this, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're fighting a former teammate here, right? Did you guys ever actually?
I mean, one of the great. This guy, Lyle Oderline, was probably the nicest. He couldn't have been nicer to me. He was our first captain. He was like a father figure to me in the locker room. It was amazing how great he was to me. He's still one of the greatest people I've met in hockey.
So this is kind of like corporal punishment, right?
It was awkward. I really didn't want this to happen.
All right,
I
it's
felt bad.
Son
All right.
in February of 2003. Let's take a look. Right, you both sort of got a hold of each other. It's like a dance. Do you talk to each other when you do this?
No, not right now. We're just
Oh, you got in some good shots.
trying to figure out if this is for real. That's what I was trying to think.
Do you remember did you start it? Did he start it? You started it,
listen,
right?
when you make eye contact with someone on the ice, it usually means you're going to go.
And this is a line fight now, right?
It's a line brawl, yeah.
Yeah, and that's very serious. You get thrown out of the game for this.
Yeah, there's Mr. Pronger.
There's
Sean.
Sean Pronger with Steve McCarthy. And Oderline is being escorted to the room.
See how loyal Prong's there. He could really hurt. He could throw that right to McCarthy, who's not ready to
He
go.
just tore his helmet off. Now he's getting him.
Oh, my.
Uh-oh.
They might have done some damage late. McCarthy can go. He hasn't gone often in the NHL, but
Fans just love it.
He can handle himself.
You're going crazy right now.
Hey, I'm gonna give a tip of the hat to Sean for that fight.
That was excellent.
That was a good fight, Sean.
Yeah.
I'm banging my pen on the table like a hockey stick here.
All right, well, let's take a look, RJ, at one of your fights from February 6, 2010 against Drew Stafford. This was Buffalo, when Drew was with Buffalo. So let's roll the clip if we can and take a look.
Look at the score.
It's 4-0 CBJ.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. He took his hat off for you right away. So you take your hat off. You should have left your helmet on. What were you thinking?
Probably smarter too, but
Showing respect there.
yeah,
Oh.
respect. So he gets me hard right there.
Oh, right there.
Oh.
Rendering. That's a good one,
See,
RJ.
RJ's so big and strong, too.
Down and up.
But when you got the attitude and you get hit, that's what Umberger just did. That makes you want to throw.
I mean, it's got to be exhausting.
Yeah,
It is.
University of North Dakota, Umberger, the Ohio State.
One of the good things about a lot of my fights, they were quick. So it's one of the reasons.
You didn't get tired out? Is that what you're saying?
One of the reasons why I wasn't a very good fighter is I lost my balance a lot. You know, the strength and everything was fine. I just I would fall a lot, and kind of never taught properly how to fight or anything. So
that's a good point. Do you ever? Is this something that's worked on in practice? I mean, how do you work on it?
You work at it.
Yeah.
That would be part of my summer.
Yeah. I mean,
Who would you fight?
Take boxing.
Oh, okay.
Watch
that makes
video.
sense. Yeah.
Do things that he wouldn't do and strategize.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't do much of that, and my fights would fall quick, so they didn't last long. But that particular fight there, that was one of my longest ones, and I remember being in a penalty box for that whole 5 minutes, and I could not breathe whatsoever.
Not ready to throw
New
up.
muscles in your arms, right?
Wow.
Well, Jody, I have a question because I heard this a long time ago, and as a fan, I was told that a lot of times those folks that are fighters in the league, they start off in junior hockey as being pretty good players, that they're scoring or they're getting lots of assists, and then when they get that call up to the NHL, they can't quote-unquote hang with those folks scoring goals and whatnot, and so then they try to find a new role for themselves, and that's how fighters are kind of born, if you will, in the NHL. Is that true?
Yeah,
or is that just a bunch
totally
of malarkey?
true. Yeah, it's opportunity. It creates an opportunity. That's really how I started fighting. I like you, I think I was in one altercation in soccer when I was 17, and then when I was 18, I went to a junior training camp. But before that, I was scoring goals.
Okay.
And
you don't get to the league without having a great amount of skill, and I think that's something that's lost on people is you can't just show up in the NHL and not be able to handle a stick and skate and do all those skill things that you need to do. I don't care who you are.
And my opportunity came in junior when I found a way to leave an impression by fighting a guy, and I'd never been in a fight in my life. So that
how'd you do it?
I did well enough to get noticed and not get the lights didn't go out on me, so that was good. And then I just kept going. And you're right, the higher you get, the more you have to specialize. You just have to realize that your vehicle for us was to make that my number one job. So I did.
I grew up out west, and when I lived in the Seattle area, I used to go to WHL games all the time. And maybe the other junior leagues weren't like this, but I remember just the most horrific bench-clearing brawls with these 17-year-old kids filled with hormones and God knows what else. And, I mean, there was a lot of, even with the very skilled players, I remember seeing,
it was
line
crazy
brawls
back then. Yeah, it was a reputation.
Am I onto something here? Like just
I
teenage
think
boys
all
with a lot
those
of energy?
leagues, yeah. OHL, Quebec League, it was all like that. We were going out there to hurt each other at that point. It was like, and the coaches were saying, like, you're getting embarrassed as a team, and you'd be in there being like, oh, we know what this means. It's a test of character for everyone. So then if you're the last, if there's a line brawl and you're the guy sitting on the bench, ooh, that's not a good feeling.
Oh, yeah, you
or
gotta
a good
go
look.
over the wall.
You got to get over there.
So last time that we spoke to RJ and Sean, we talked about trades. And so, Jody, I wanted to know, let's say sometime in your career a trade has happened, a guy that you fought a month ago or 2 weeks ago or last season now is your teammate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, how do you mend that fence?
There's no talk about it.
Okay.
It's just
it's water
just
under
a
the bridge?
smile and a handshake
Okay.
and welcome.
Okay.
It's really it's so unique and it's weird. It's strange. I mean, I've had a fight with a guy and been at the bar afterwards getting a healthy meal and having a good conversation with him about nothing to do with the fight. Actually, it was Donald Brashear. And he was eating sushi. I went up and said, hey, Donald, how you doing? Oh, good. How you doing? We had just fought like probably an hour and a half before.
See, this
So
is
it's just
like
a
the
mutual
thing
respect.
This is the thing we were talking about. Do you guys remember the Looney Tunes cartoon?
Oh, yeah.
The sheepdog and the wolf?
Yeah.
And they're walking to the forest, and they're, hey, how you doing, Ralph? How you doing? How you doing? How's the kids? And then they clock in at a tree, and then they chase each other and try to destroy each other the entire workday, and then they clock out. Is that what it's like?
Yeah, it's part of your job. It's part of you're part of your team, I'm part of mine.
So it's like an hour and a half after you fight, it's like, how's the family?
And I'm trying to
Can I buy you a
knock your
beer?
block off. And I know you're trying to knock mine off. And you're giving me your best, and I'm giving you my best. But at the end of the day, we're both glad it's over, and you know what? We move on.
All right, Sean, in your career, at any level, who was the guy that, as a fighter, and you didn't have to, I know you didn't do as much fighting as Jody did. Few people did as much fighting as Jody did. But was there somebody that everybody was like, oh my God, this person, this guy you do not mess with him. Everyone was terrified of him. Can you think of somebody?
Well, I was terrified of a lot of guys. But there was, George LaRock was pretty dangerous, but the thing with him, he was like almost too nice. He's very polite out there. Like if he wanted to, he could just be a menace, but he'd always, I don't think he was that effective in his role. Like Jody, I felt like, like he'd go after a Chris Pronger and annoy him and try to throw guys off their games where LaRock wouldn't, but like when he got in a fight, he was dangerous. Like Ty Domi was another guy. Thank God. Fight that guy. And then it was Bob Probert when I was like a rookie in Anaheim. I took one too many swipes at the puck when their goalie had it. And so I just saw this guy come out of my left side, like flying at me. And I just kind of made it like I didn't see him, and then last and I kind of backed out of the pile and then turned my back and just kind of went to the bench for a change. And I'm like, he didn't know I saw it, but like he was like coming to kill me. And then he just couldn't get back to me in time before I got like the rest of the way. I just kind of like made it like nonchalant. But I mean, Probert would have been a guy. And I remember Jody, didn't you have like 3 fights against him in Chicago?
Yeah.
3 in one game, right?
Yeah, that was
3 in one game.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I played him in the early '90s or mid '90s. I played against him.
Yeah, he was tough. But some of those guys in the minors, Prongs, Bialois and those guys. Do you play with him?
Yeah.
No, but I know. I was in Philly. He was after.
His nickname
I was
was the
after him.
Animal.
Yeah, he was. I've seen him around in Philly.
Dangerous, too.
Dangerous.
So why did you fight Bob Probert 3 times in one game? Couldn't you have settled it the first time around?
Well, you would think so, but I didn't even want to ask him to fight. But I asked him to fight. And
Hey, Jody, you beat him the first time. That's probably what happened.
I beat him the second time.
Yeah. Okay.
The first time I fell down and wasn't happy. And if I had a fight, I always said to the guy, if I didn't win, I'd always say, we're going again. We're not done. So it's
Get
in the
this
first
right.
period. So I was like, didn't want him to think I'm done. And I'm jacked up still because, it didn't go great. So I said to him, we're going to go again. Like, we're going again. I was yelling it the whole way to the box. That was the first period. Second period, I play a shift against him late in the period, and I get a great grab on him, and I beat him up. I cut him open. This is only the second period. So I have to go to the locker room, and I'm in the locker room, and I'm like, oh, no. I got it. The third period come. The guys come off the ice. They're like, oh, you just beat up Bob Probert. I'm like, no.
No, I didn't. No, I
It didn't happen. So third period comes, and Dave King, I'll never forget it, Dave King goes, Jody, get out there. And I'm like, all right. And Dave's got a very high voice. He says, but don't fight him. I'm like, oh, Dave, I got to fight him. He goes, well,
don't cut me out there.
he goes,
Get out there and score a goal.
he wants to kill me. He goes, well, don't take an extra 2-minute penalty. I'm like, okay, that's no problem. So I go out, and Probert is ready to go. He's his winger. He's a left winger. His right winger already sees, and I'm left winger, so we're on opposites, but his right winger already sees that I'm coming. He looks over. So he just starts skating towards Probert. Probert comes over. This is off a face-off. And drops the gloves, fights again, and 3 times in one game. But the worst part about it is we played them 2 nights later. So the first period, the media got a hold of it. So 2 nights later, I had to fight him again. And I thought I was going to die. Prongs is right. He was a scary man. When I asked him the first time, I remember hearing my voice, because it was an internal struggle. The game was on coast to coast in Canada, so I knew all my buddies were watching. And I was like, no, I'll just wait to ask him. And then I heard my voice say, do you want to go? And I'm like, no. And I saw the words hit him. He looked right through me, and he said, I don't care. I'm like, great. I'm going to die.
So that brings up an interesting thing I've always wondered about, the guys that knew their role being fighting. like 2 games later you're playing them, or 2 days later or whatever, and you know he's going to fight again. Like how do you feel going into that, like that day before, or that pregame nap the day of, or sitting in the locker room an hour before the game? Like you're fighting a certain guy that day, this game. Like how'd you feel?
You know what? I would never let myself get overrun with nerves. I always played myself to the underdog. I could have never been the toughest in the league, the champ. I think that would have been the hardest job. I wouldn't want that, to try to go undefeated every time. I didn't mind losing a fight. And it was I honestly was so appreciative to be a part of the team and to be a part of it. My nerves would start to bubble, and I'd always flush them out just with I don't know, a thought of appreciation or stupidity. I don't know what it was, but I always just stayed ahead of it a little bit. I always slept well day of the game. I just always thought nothing, the worst that can go wrong is not going to go wrong. I'm going to give it my best, and hopefully he's way more anxious than I am. And going into the fights, I said this the other day to someone, the anxiety going in is always way worse than the fight.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree. I had probably 2 fights going into I knew was going to happen that day, and you're right. The anxiety going into it just really was hard to handle compared to the actual fight. It was over so quick. It was done. Nothing happened. Oh well.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hey, Sean.
Good question.
What is a line that a player should not cross in terms of fighting etiquette? And have you seen, or did you experience someone crossing that line, whatever it is, if it exists?
That's a good question. I think when the refs jump in, they try to do a good job, and sometimes they get a hold of one guy more than the other guy. I think it's kind of steep if you like. I mean, I know you're fired up and you just want to kill the guy, but I think maybe they'll take a shot. But I think it was Jim Cummins, and I can't remember who he did. It might have been like Rob Niedermeyer, but the refs basically had, whoever he was fighting had both arms down by the sides, just kind of tied up, and Cummins just exploded the guy's face. So I think that might be one. Maybe the guy's vulnerable and you've already knocked him to the ground. I think it's over. But I mean, again, it's hard when you're just, especially if you're mad. Like some but you're not mad, you're just doing it to change momentum. But if you're just doing that and once the guy goes down, that's kind of over with. I mean, I can't really say I saw guys do anything like that was out of line. I'm trying to think if there's any. Jody, do you remember anything like that?
I don't like when the guys celebrate after a fight that's not really, it's just a fight. Like, it's not like you really beat me up, but I had a couple guys celebrate on me. It's like, come on, man.
Most of the time that doesn't happen because you're too tired.
Well, unless you're really jacked up. But I will say in that Pronger fight, the Probert fight, after the third fight, the refs are on top of me. And if you look at the YouTube video, you see me slip a punch while I'm on my back. And I get asked sometimes, why did you punch him after you were down? Well, he had his thumb in my eye socket, and he was gouging my eye out. And I could see his eyes between the 2 refs, and I'm on my back. So as this is happening, I'm like, so I slip my right up and get him right on the nose, and I see him come back to earth, Bob Probert. He's like, wow, what are you doing? And I was like, dude, you're gouging my eye out. He goes, oh, sorry about that. And walked away. So, sometimes that extra punch prongs, guys are still in the moment, fired up. And it's
Totally. I totally got it.
Well, he was sort of a really troubled person, as we found out.
I heard he was a great teammate. An awesome guy.
Yeah, but he was really more complicated than you think, and he had a lot of problems off the ice. But it wasn't just, well, he's a goon, or he's this, or he's that. He was, kind of almost different than maybe you encountered with other players. I don't know. Have you thought about that too much?
No, I mean he was part of the old school intimidation.
Yeah.
I think that's part of what he was.
Yeah.
He did go to an All-Star game, and I heard that when he was at the All-Star game, every All-Star couldn't wait to meet him. Like, he had that kind of aura. And maybe it was because he was kind of a rebel off the ice. Mm-hmm. He had a persona. He grew up in Windsor, played for Detroit, and then later Chicago. There's more to him, definitely, but he was an interesting guy who could score and did well in the league, and by far he was kind of the father figure in there as far as toughness. He would fight anybody, and he didn't have to oblige my fight. I was kind of a younger guy, and he had done it all, but he did. So I've got tremendous amount of respect for him.
I guess currently the NHL, well, not I guess, but currently the NHL is trying to crack down on fighting.
Yeah.
So what are your opinions on that topic?
I think it's still a place for it in the game. I think obviously, your best players need protected still. Cheap shots, anything like that. I think you need to be able to stand up for a teammate or whatever. And I think that's the thing that NHL's gone to now is you don't see so many of the heavyweights like Jody and whatnot. It's more of a team toughness. And I remember my last few years playing, it was, the coach preached team toughness. That means, we all going to stick up for each other. And then if, you do have guys that are more skilled fighting now that are, kind of hybrid players. Like, Jared Bowl was one of them. It kind of changed the game a little bit what fighting was. I mean, Jared was actually a really good player too. He had a lot of skill, and he could play all over the lineup if you gave him that opportunity. But his role was mostly fighting. But you never lost a beat with Jared on the ice. And then you look at the Jackets now. I mean, their probably best fighter is probably Nick Foligno, who's one of the most skilled and talented guys on the team. But he's just so tough that he's learned how to fight and take care of his teammates and himself, and so I think that's kind of the direction the game's gone to, just being more skilled. 4 lines now in the game all can play, and that's the way it's gone. It's more exciting that way. So I think this brand of hockey is way more exciting for the fans. Keeping hockey or keeping the fighting involved, I think personally would like to see it. I think it still needs to be there.
Sean, what do you think about the fighting and the lack thereof nowadays in the league?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with both RJ and Jody. I feel like it just kind of misses a bit of. I love the skill. I love the speed. I love the skill. I just feel like it misses some of that passion where it's like, this is my team, my city, like Jody was saying, and I'm going to protect it, kind of thing. I think of the one chance or a couple chances of like bringing more of I don't say enforcer, but the guy that can hold people accountable. I think of a guy like Tom Wilson. That guy can do whatever he wants out there, and he does. And no one answers for it. Like, he doesn't have to answer for it. And so maybe teams like that player having success he's had, maybe that brings in. You know what? We need somebody to answer that guy. So maybe he kind of helps spur the movement back the other way, where then you need to get some more guys that can they still be able to play, but can also hold other players accountable.
That's a great guy to bring up, Sean. I appreciate that, because when you watch him play, and it's hard as a Jackets fan when he's a guy that you just, oh my God, I hate this guy so much. But then when you step back and you take just a view of his game and try to take your emotion out of it, you go, oh my God, this guy is a great player, because he has a tremendous amount of skill, and he also is frightening. And that's I guess what you're getting at is that's the new fighter, maybe, is the guy who, in his briefcase, he has the skill.
There's no element for him to be concerned. Like, there's not like he's going, oh, I better not do this, or Jody's going to come out and I'm going to have to answer for it. It's like, I'm going to go do this, and hopefully I don't get suspended. It's kind of like I guess the biggest threat for him.
Yeah, and he's a top line guy.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a top line
player. He's a great player.
That doesn't need to fight anymore. And I'm not talking about him. I mean, there's guys that, have worked their way in the lineup, and there's nothing there. So the intimidation, the passion, I think that's on the players to bring that back a little bit, to try it.
Well, I suppose it's like anything else. You have ebbs and flows. The game just sort of corrects itself organically, perhaps. And
I think it's an option.
Yeah.
I think it's an option not to fight, and it's easy to take it, and it's not questioned. In the locker room.
Okay, I gotcha.
Like, why didn't
no
you
one's
fight
gonna
that
call
guy?
you out anymore.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Huh.
I think that there's an element there that, and maybe we'll see it. And it's not called for, but I think it's lacking a little bit, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It does because, and Wilson is Exhibit A because there are things that he does that are beyond the pale. As a fan, it's like way over the line, and it's hard for the players to enforce against a guy like him. And you do. You wait for the league to, okay, you're sitting for 10 games, and he's back in 10 games. He's doing the same stuff he was doing before. So it's obviously not getting through to him.
But he's figured it out. I think he's
think
really.
so?
I think last season, I think that really hurt him. This last suspension.
That was 20, right?
Yeah,
20
it
games.
was
That's
a big.
long.
And
Yeah.
I think his game has changed a little bit. A little bit. But
What's he like? Have you ever talked to him?
Super guy.
So you keep
Super
telling
guy.
me that. I gotta have enemies, Joe.
You know who's great too? Brad Marchand. The
There's
guy
not
you
too
probably.
Oh,
There's not too
are
many.
you okay, Brian? Are you okay?
Man,
Are you all right?
I want to bring that guy. We owe him so much. Wasn't he the guy that launched himself at Josh Anderson in the playoffs?
No,
Who was that?
that
Who did
was the defenseman.
That
Oh,
was dirty.
what's his-
McAvoy?
Charlie
Yes, it was
McAvoy.
Charlie McAvoy. You're right.
Thank
Yes.
That was dirty.
Not too many bad guys in hockey.
No, there's not.
No, there really
Yeah.
There
isn't.
isn't.
Well, I can invent them if you want me to come up with a list.
If you hate them that much, they're doing their job.
Yeah.
I
That's
guess-
that's the biggest compliment you can give those
Yes.
guys.
Well, as you guys look back at the game and your fights, it's got to hurt. Are you left with like, oh man, my cheek hurts today, or this hurts, or that hurts? Or at the time, were you left with
Oh,
with
yeah.
injuries that like, oh man,
I got cut every time I fight. I mean, I had stitches. I've had so many stitches.
what's the most stitches you ever had?
I had 90 in my forehead from one
90?
fight, and I won the fight. It's
Oh, I
stupid.
can kind of see it there.
It was like I'd been in a knife fight.
Yeah. Well,
I think I've had over 500 in my face.
Wow.
But you know what? No pain, just amazement. I mean, I look back at some of the fights and think, how did we do that? I mean, even the mentality prongs and RJ, the mentality we had as a fourth line, and you didn't play on the fourth line for only for a few minutes. It was like the old school coaches wanted us to go out like we were heat-seeking missiles. It was
Yeah.
like just go out and make noise and let everyone know you're there and come back. I mean, prongs, we mixed in a few goals, but not many.
I mean, I came into the league with Philly.
Couple accidents.
Sorry.
Yeah, accidents, that's right.
Let's say I came into the league with Philly in the minors and in NHL, and the fighters that we had in that organization, and so it was an eye opener from the beginning. I mean, we had guys that, I mean, it was 3-4 fights every game. I mean, we had in the minor league we had a line of Todd Fedoruk, Josh Gratton, and Ben Eves. It was like.
And then who'd you have on?
We had,
You had Lassard on defense too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Or something? Was he there, Frankie Lassard?
No, he wasn't there, but
Commandant Lassard.
I think there's even somebody else I'm missing too. But it was just like you just did not mess with us. And then the fights that when it did happen, it was unreal. So it was an eye opener when I started.
That was the worst team in training camp in the minors to go to. Philadelphia. You look at the roster. This is before the internet. You look at the roster and you'd be like, I hope there's 19 of these guys that aren't playing tonight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you knew those guys were fighting to fight you. They were like fighting each other. Like, I'm going to have this guy first shift. You get this guy. And there's two of us over in the locker room for Syracuse going, just not even talking because we're just like misery.
huh? They're like pairing off before the game. Huh?
Oh, yeah. Those guys are putting Vaseline on, getting ready for...
Vaseline,
Didn't even need a
so
Vaseline.
you can't grab them.
Oh, they probably had it on their
Cuts.
jersey,
Jerseys
too.
on their hair.
Yeah,
so
for cuts
Oh
and,
yeah.
They would
boxes.
cut their jerseys so their jersey would come right off. Oh, yeah. They had all the tricks, man.
I think on that note, we need to start wrapping things up here, gentlemen, because
Fascinating.
we still also want to talk a little bit to Steph as well here about the great news she has
Yeah.
about the project.
Yeah.
Jody Shelley, thank you for joining
My
us.
pleasure.
RJ,
Thanks,
thanks
A lot
for
of
joining
fun.
us.
Sean, thank you very much. Out there in sunny California, is it nice out there today?
Yeah, it is. I'd like to lie to you, but it's about 80 degrees, no humidity. Yeah, we're spoiled up here.
All right. Well,
I'm getting softer by the day.
Attaboy.
Sean Progger's won the fight of life because he's out in 80 degrees and no humidity every single day of his life. He is the winner. Congratulations, Sean. Thank you so much for being with us again.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, we're joined by Steph Grieger. Steph.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah.
There's fighting in the movie. We don't want to. Unless you've changed the script. Unless you cut the fighting.
No. We
don't want
fighting.
No spoilers. But what's the biggest challenge in your mind to presenting a hockey fight in a movie that you want to look real?
Well, I think the initial challenge was just the story of it, which actually RJ, who is a consultant on the film, fixed for us when we had a bunch of players in to audition them, and then they came back and we were doing some choreography stuff to go through, and we sort of caught in the beginning like, oh, if this kind of hit happened to the captain, there should probably be a response, like a fight, like Jody was talking about, like you respond to that if somebody's messing with your captain. So technically it comes down to story, so we wanted to make sure that the fights were in and they were in alignment with what the story actually was. The second part, of course, is stunt and choreography. So when you're thinking about production and production dollars, it's more money to stage fights because you need stuntmen and you need choreographers and.
I got a guy right here.
I know, we got Jody. Let's bring Jody on. Yeah, for sure.
Stunts? What do you mean stuntman?
That's you, Jody.
Yeah.
You're going to stunt
Just
this.
do it for real.
Yeah.
For real, yeah.
Yeah, so you take those kinds of things into consideration when you're safety of the actors and safety of people on set. So you're trying to be careful about those kinds of things. So it needs to be integral to the story.
On skates, which is
on
not
skates.
not easy.
Not easy, yeah.
So since we last spoke, you have some momentum going as far
We
as
do.
shooting.
So there's a guy that I met when I was in New York at the New York Film Academy, and he's done several feature films. He's a line producer, and he has some good relationships with one of the streamers, and he feels that they are going to be very interested in the film because it's hockey, and also because it's historical, because it's the first feature-length film in United States history, at least, that will be directed by a woman, a hockey film. Mm-hmm. So it's historical in that way, and the fact that there's a female involved, and that it is about hockey. He feels pretty confident that the package we have might ring some bells over there. So
Good.
That would be great, and so. If
I
we
saw
could
what you
sell
did
it,
there. Ring some bells.
Ring some bells.
Like, I got it. I got it.
Yeah,
There you
yeah. So we're excited. That could lead to some good things, which would be great to have a streamer pick it up, and then we can go right into production, and then we have automatic distribution. So
That's awesome. Well, onward and upward.
Onward and upward. So here we go.
All right, John.
All right.
Step outside.
You know what? No, I'm going to pass. I'm going to be one of those guys.
Smart man.
I'm
Thanks.
certainly not messing with these guys.
Well, I'm not either,
No.
but
I feel like I've learned a lot, and what's fascinating to me, I'll take away you going for drinks with a guy that you fought like an hour and a half later, and just how's the wife, how's the kids, no big deal.
No big deal.
I love
Zero.
that. I love that.
It's just
Oh,
business, man.
So fascinating, so fascinating. Well, Jody Shelley, RJ Umberger, Sean Pronger, thank you for being here. This was a lot of fun. John
Yep.
Milano, Steph Grieger, I'm Brian Phillips. This has been Behind the Puck, and we invite you to check out subsequent episodes. I know we're going to be talking about playing hurt.
oh, is that
Hopefully
next?
in the future. Well, in the future, we'll see.
Wow.
We need to find a particular person, track
Okay.
him down, and bring him in here. You guys know what I'm talking about when I say playing hurt?
Not
So to
playing,
speak?
I know
playing
who-
guilty.
Playing
Playing
guilty.
guilty.
That's what.
Oh,
I
that
meant.
kind of hurt.
Playing guilty. Playing guilty. That's what I meant. See, I have so much to learn from you guys.
That's
He
okay.
just-
You'll be well schooled by
he
the
just-
time this
he
project's
just
over.
laughs.
That's
Pronger
right.
has an excellent story on playing
Oh.
guilty. It was in his
Oh.
book, Journeyman.
Yes.
Okay.
And it has
Okay.
to do with a certain Gretzky might be in that story.
Nice. Okay.
Fantastic.
Well,
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're cooking up next. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening. Thanks, fellas, and we'll see you next time.